Well, hey everyone. This presentation will consist of showing you how to process lunar and solar imaging or images from the ZWO Seestar S50. All right, so anytime you process your lunar and videos from the Seestar, it can be really rewarding because the Seestar does such a great job of uh, imaging the moon and the sun. And its triplet refractor telescope that's built into the Seestar really does a great job when coupled with its sensor, the ASI 462 camera. Um, so this video will help you understand how I process um, solar and lunar imaging and a benefit of this process, as well as the use of other software that's available out there. Um, you can use the same process regardless of the equipment you use for solar and lunar imaging. Here's a brief description of the software used when I process the Seestar videos. Autostakkert 4, it's been around a while. Great software for stacking video frames, and it's free. Another free piece of software is IMPPG. It's wonderful for bringing out details and eliminating artifacts early on after stacking. PIP, it's another free software that helps you align each frame in the center. And this is very useful because the Seestar, as you know, is a very light mount, and the wind can move the mount somewhat. So PIP comes in handy to keep every frame, the sun or the moon in the center when you're processing. I also use Photoshop, and it's not free, but I've been using it for a number of years with the following filters. Camera Raw filter is my main go-to plugin or filter for Photoshop. Luminar 4, this is the version that I use. I've never upgraded it past Luminar 4. It does a great job enhancing color and details, and it's also can be a standalone version without using Photoshop. Topaz Labs Denoise AI. When I first started using this filter, it was fantastic, but over time, as it's been updated, it just doesn't work as well. It's actually hit or miss. So I try to use it. There are times I can't. So I did a search for what alternatives to Photoshop are free. I found that GIMP, it's been around a long time. It's very feature-rich, open source, free software that will allow you to do, in many ways, as much as Photoshop can, but I just find Photoshop is easier to use. Pixlr, it's a web-based tool that does offer a free version with many features. Whether or not it will do what you need it to do for this application, you need to do your own research to determine that. Photopea, a free online editor with a Photoshop-like interface. It appears to be a robust editor, but do your own research. Paint.net. While it is an intuitive and easy to use program, it may not be suitable for this application. And so now that we've covered what software is used in the process, and we've looked at alternatives to Photoshop, let's simply start the process. All right, so here we are with Autostakkert. I've already got it opened up. And what I'm going to do is open up a file that we're going to edit. And we're going to open up a lunar image or lunar video. And we'll go over the features that are that I commonly use in Autostakkert. So here we're going to open it up. I'm going to go into here because I did lunar imaging of the full moon that was on the 15th. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to try to go with the latest one. So we'll go with this one. Once you select the file, you can close and process data. And then we're going to move to the right side of this, this application. So I try to center the object in here as best I can. And all right, and then I'll move these sliders to decrease the size. This speeds up the stacking process too. So here we are. I'm going to make some adjustments and recenter. Okay, make some more adjustments. Okay, and now that vertical bar is gone, and I'm going to try to get rid of this red, which is outside the imaging field of view. Whoa, a little bit goes a long way. I may end up leaving it. Oh, there's just a slight bit. I'll leave it like that. And so let's take a look at some of the features here. So we're not looking at just the surface. We're trying to focus on the whole disk. So we will make sure that the planet option is checked. We'll also check the dynamic background. For the quality estimator, we'll ensure that this automatic setting box is checked. Below the Analyze, we're going to use automatic. And at this point, all we're trying to get Autostakkert to do is analyze the video segment. And while this is happening, let me just say that with your Seestar, you have two video format options. The standard is MP4, and the high resolution uses AVI files, which are RAW. And that's the file format that you want to use and to process. So we're kind of all over the place here. I'm going to go with, let's see, 1043, and I'm going to put that in here. Now I get that 1043 from the right side, right here in the frames box here. All right. Now I check all of these in here. The normalized stack, I keep that at 70. You don't have to. You can change it to however you feel it needs to be done. I want this to be sharpened after the stack, and it will blend raw for 50% of the frames. RGB align, boxes checked, and save in folders. And then I also use 3x drizzle, and that gives it more resolution. It increases the size of the moon, and it will also cause Autostakkert to take longer to stack. And over here, we have to place alignment points before we can stack. All right. I usually keep it at 96 and 35, and that's good for my lunar and solar imaging. I do not have the close to edge box checked, but I do have replace and multi-scale boxes checked. So I'm going to place the alignment point grids on, and you'll see this all across. And I'm just going to hit stack, and it will take considerable time. So I'll stop recording the video and come back when this is done. Okay, so Autostakkert is done. We see this by going in, looking in the status section of Autostakkert. It shows that it's done. And one useful feature that you can go to help you go quickly to where it's saved is go into File and Show Output Directory. So we have two files here. One is the unsharpened version, and the other one is the sharpened. So we'll look at both. And while we have an image of the moon, it's kind of lacking some detail. So I'll hit the next, and it provides a little bit more detail. All right. So overall, I would say that when I was imaging the moon, it pretty much stayed right in the center. When we look at solar imaging, before we use Autostakkert, we will use PIP, and I'll show you why later. So now I want to open up IMPPG. The 17th, and this is the image I am looking for. So when you first open up IMPPG, or after you open it up, you'll have to zoom out so you can see all of it. All right, and then the next thing you're going to want to do is you see this detail box. You want to make sure that you click here, because what that does is expand that detail box to cover the whole image. And that's what we want. You kind of see the outline of that box around the whole image. So what we're going to do is zoom in a little bit. And let me hit the scroll bar. And you should be able to see that there's pixelation around the edges, and those are artifacts. It's anything, an artifact is anything we don't want in our imaging. And so what you do is go down to the bottom amount slider and bring that down. Keep bringing it down until you don't see anything, any of those artifacts. And I'm going to zoom in again to make sure we try to get as much of this out of the way. And sometimes we can use Sigma to help us with that. All right. And and then once we try to see, we want to look at the whole image too. We want to look at everything just to make sure nothing is weird along the edges or anywhere else in your image of the moon. All right. After we do that, we can use this top bar to bring out some detail. Okay. We see that the edge looked peeled up, so we went too far. We don't want to introduce any artifacts. So let me take another look overall. And this is as good as we're going to get it. Now, another feature of IMPPG is this tone curve. It's a histogram where you can stretch it, and it has an auto stretch feature that I find very useful. It brightened it up, and you can make adjustments. I try not to get any areas too bright. One of the hardest things for me sometimes is this area here around Tycho. Sometimes it looks just bleached out instead of detailed. And that's why I try to make adjustments. I don't want it too dark. All right. And when you start messing with tone curves or histograms, it's kind of subjective. Um, you may use this and to get a different look. And a little bit goes a long way with this. And if, however, you find it's not working out, this view isn't working out, you can always reset the, and it's back to where it was before you started messing with the tone curve. So you can start changing changing the curve up, and let me reset it. I'm going to stretch again, and I'm going to try to bring this down just a little bit. And that's it. I think I got the detail right where I want it. Let me look at the image overall. All right. And now it's time to save what you've done. So I go into File, Save, and let me just go back into here, go into my folder that I created on today's date. And what I do is I'll save it in such a way so I don't overwrite any previous version of the image. So here I'll just put it under score and IMPPG, hit enter to save it, and that's it. Okay, so now we have the IMPPG version. So what we'll do now is use Photoshop to further enhance this image. So you right click on the file, and then we open with, and I use Photoshop 2025. If you have a recent version of Photoshop, that should work. I mean, within the last just few years. Now, here's the image that we have after IMPPG, and you can see the title with the IMPPG added to the file name. So this tells you exactly what you're working on. So whether you're using GIMP or Photoshop or other similar type of photo editing software, you always want to start by going into Image, check the mode, make sure this is where you want it. If you want to go with grayscale, make sure you click that. And also ensure that 16-bit per channel is enabled. All right, once you have that set, go into Filter. And I'm going to go into Camera Raw Filter initially. And what I like to do is click on this image. It will enlarge it, but you can move this, just drag your mouse pointer to the left. You can then click on the hand here and you can position it wherever you want it. And I like to go and adjust the blacks just a little bit and the shadows. And what this does is if there's any light or shadow, minor shadow cast during the stacking or even during the imaging, that will mitigate that. So I wanted to kind of take a moment to discuss two things that will impact your image processing. Don't underestimate the value of a good PC monitor, regardless of what operating system you're using. A good quality monitor will help you see artifacts that will impact or be seen by others that do have good monitors. There's also devices that you can get that will calibrate your monitors. And these are these two suggestions are very indispensable. And whether you're processing solar system objects or whether you're processing deep space objects, look into this and do your research. If you're planning a PC upgrade, you're going to, ramp up your system for processing, get a good research, good monitors and the calibration tools. They are available. They're not necessarily cheap, but for all the time and effort that you're going to eventually put into this in the long term, it's worth your time and effort. So that being said, once I've adjusted the blacks and the shadows here a little bit, and you notice I didn't need to do too much. I'm just going to click OK, and I'm going to try the Topaz Denoise AI. And this will either work or you can use your mouse wheel to scroll in and out just to see the difference. The image on your left is the original, and the one on the right is Topaz Denoise it's done. Now, I like to zoom in and also look at the edges, and I do see pixelation. So for lunar and solar imaging, for lunar imaging, I recommend either low light or raw. I think low light will do better. I also see some discolorization. You can see a green tint along the edge. That's not wanted. Okay, so I'm going to go with low light. And there's a little pixelation in there. So I'm going to try to mitigate that. Maybe go a little further. Okay. And this is why I'm saying I still see a lot of pixelation, and I see lines in here that I don't like. So this is not a useful option on this particular lunar image. Not every image is the same. Like sometimes the scene conditions are much better, and it does impact your image processing. But sometimes the AI algorithm in the Noise AI just doesn't work. So I'm going to cancel a lot of this and close without saving. This brings me back to the image, and I'm going to go back into Camera Raw Filter. And I'm just going to get this resize where I see more detail. I'm going to reposition this. And so a lot of times I like focusing or being able to see the edges. Tycho and Copernicus here, as well as all these areas where that shows where all the dust settled after the impact around Copernicus. So I will go into the effects section. I'll bring up the texture, and I may even adjust exposure just a little bit too, so it's not so dim. And what I'm looking for, I'm going to use the clarity slider. Okay, and dehaze a little bit. And I will probably also go down to the color grading. And shadows. I like getting everything as dark as possible without um, ruining or losing any of the detail along the edges. All right. And then once you're satisfied um, uh, where you want all your adjustments on this, you can click OK. Now there have been some nights that of imaging the moon where I've been able to get far better detail out of this. But sometimes it's just not meant to be. Overall, I'd say this is as good as I can get it without overcooking the image. So I will go into File, Save As, and I will add Photoshop to this. I did solar imaging on the 9th because that was the last date we had a really impressive view of the sunspots. But I wanted to show you a video of what I was dealing with that day. So I'm just using a regular MP4 video. So what I'm trying to show is, yeah, here we go. This is what I was dealing with. So the wind pushed the sun off center, and Seestar then centered it. So this sort of thing can impact um, the imaging. So this is why we will use PIP to keep every frame in the video centered. We'll just open this one up, and you'll get this add source files. This tells you that the Bayer pattern for the sensor that's in the Seestar or whatever sensor you're using has been added. So it also tells you that the Bayer pattern is not 100% accurate and is only designed to work with astro images. We want to make sure that the solar or lunar full disk is enabled. Now, we can also use this on lunar imaging as well if we have similar situations where the wind is blowing the lunar image about. All right, we'll go and look at processing options, and we're going to make sure that the object planetary circle is highlighted. We're going to enable object detection. Um, we're going to object detection threshold. We're going to center it, each frame, and we're going to crop it. All right. In processing quality, we're going to enable quality estimation, reorder frames in quality order, and we're going to only keep the best 1200 frames. If we go back into the source file, this tells you that when I imaged this, I collected 6572 frames. So I'll just use 1200 of the best frames. We're not going to mess with the animation tab. We'll go into output options. I usually go with the format that it was recorded in, which is AVI. I have create subdirectory checked, append the date and time, and use same frame rate as input video if possible. And I will go into the do processing, and I will click on start processing. So what this does, it'll sort through all those frames and then process the best 12 out of the best 1200 frames. And you'll see that being done on this, excuse me, second line. So I'll hit start processing, and it's going to start sorting through all of those frames. And then here, it'll sort and give us the best 1200 frames. So as this will take some time, I'll pause the video here and resume when it is finished. Okay, so we see that pip is finished processing this. We'll go into our File Explorer and we'll go into the video here. Now, because of the way the wind was blowing the Seestar, your pip video may look kind of weird, and it will illustrate this. You see how it is kind of distorted, yet at the same time, notice how every frame shows the sun centered. All right. When we're done, it'll look, when we're done processing this in Autostakkert, it will look as it should with a little bit more detail. So we'll go ahead into Autostakkert. We'll open this up, and all right, we'll close and process. We will also need to clear our previous alignment points. And yes, this looks weird, but I can guarantee you that the final image will not look like an egg. So we're going to analyze. All right. And since everything was centered up nicely for us, I'm just saying we could probably use all 1,200 of those frames. And I'm using the same settings I did with the moon. I'll place the grid here and hit stack. And once this is finished stacking, we'll be able to edit this further in IMPPG. Open, and let's see. Okay, this is the folder that we're using, and here is the file. And just like with the lunar image, we're going to have to zoom out, all right, so we can see all of it. And we want to make sure that this detail box covers the entire image, so we will select this box here. We can see that the detail box now covers the entire image, and we're going to enlarge it a little bit just so we can better see all the artifacts that are now created in this. And we see along the edge that it's heavily pixelated. So just like we did with the lunar imaging, the bottom amount button, we will just slide to the left, keeps doing so until we get as much of those artifacts off the edge. We'll increase or zoom in so we can better see if there's any pixelation remaining. There is a little bit, but I think, yeah, we can just slide the bottom sigma to get rid of that pixelation. Let me just go all the way, look at the sun all the way around. And that works for me. So what we can also do, I'm going to use the top sigma to bring out a little more details without the pixelation. Okay, we can bring this up a little bit more until we can't. And you can see that it looks like the edge is peeling over. Bringing that down until that disappears. And maybe a little bit more. Okay, and just like with the lunar, we're going to use the tone curve. We're going to stretch it. That'll brighten it up. And we can make subtle adjustments. Okay. And trying to keep this, the intensity, the light intensity is close to the same as I possibly can. we've got good detail on the sunspots. And isn't it cool how they're kind of relatively in a line here? That's just really cool. All right, so I'm going to now save this. And we go into here and 17. All right, and just like before, I try to save it to a new version so I don't overwrite what was previously given to us. And I'll just type with that extension. It'll save it as a TIFF 16-bit, and there it is. Now I'll go into here. I'll right click on here and open with Photoshop. And I also have the previous image of the moon here. And now we got this. So you might be able to see that there's some whitish area around the sun. I'm going to go into image, and we want to make sure that we're in 16-bit, and I am going to choose color. I'm also going to go into the camera raw filter, and we're going to resolve this area around the edge. That's kind of, we don't want that. We want it dark. And I'll also bring the blacks slider to the left a little bit, also the shadows. And let's take a look at contrast. I want to try to, try to make this surface look more uniform. All right, and for right now, I want to try to go into the denoise AI. And I want to look at the edge. Nope, can't do it. So I really can't do that on these two images here. All right, so now I am going to go back into Camera Raw Filter, and then I'm going to go into the Effects section. I'm also going to bring this up where I can kind of see the details. I'm going to click on the hand so I can position it where I see the detail that I want to see, resulting from my adjustments. And clarity and dehaze, and I think that is, no, I think that's good. So now I'm going to go into Luminar 4, and I have, let me see here. Photoshop color settings. I have a little cheat sheet. All right, so I'm going to go into Pro and Color Enhancer and Advanced Settings. So I'll make adjustments using my guide that I created. It's not exact, and I adjust this to a point where I still see good detail in the surface and sunspots. Okay, and all right, I may go, I like that. I'm getting good detail there. Midtones, about 25 or so. And magic green, 11. And yellow blue. All right, highlights. Okay. And not so much. All right, once I have it where I want it, I will click on apply. And here we have good detail of the sunspots, some detail of the surface. Conditions, because you saw how the wind was blowing the Seestar about, it wasn't great. I will tell you that whenever you have good atmospheric conditions, no wind blowing, no clouds in the sky, the surface detail um, really uh, makes a big difference. I mean, when you're processing, it just makes everything stand out better when you have good conditions. And there's no substitute really for it. Sometimes, it's kind of a hit and miss. But they do call this solar system imaging and this way lucky imaging because in spite of the odds, you can still come out ahead, especially with today's tools that we have. So I'm going to save this, Photoshop, and save image pyramid. And one other thing that I will do is you can copy and paste into PowerPoint. And I'm going to open up the presentation that where I saved the final images. So you can copy and paste it into PowerPoint, and you can go into design, format background, and use this eyedropper. Get it close to the surface and click there, and it gives it a more uniform background. And you can do this exact same thing with the sun images. Um, and then you can save these two images, give it the TIFF extension. However, if you want to save images that you want to put on, say, Instagram, uh, you'll need to save it as a JPEG. Okay. So that pretty much covers my processing flow for lunar and solar images. I hope you found this quite useful. And um, if you want to leave any comments, I would please encourage it. Please put a like in on my videos. Now, I'm not trying to make any money off of this, but I try to make my videos more interesting for this hobby. So your comments would be most helpful indeed. Thank you so much, and clear skies. Bye-bye.